let's jump to this story from Deadline. Joe Biden talks about watching an AI-generated deepfake of himself. I said, when the hell did I say that? So apparently Biden wants to launch some AI safety regulations and guidelines and things like this. They say President Biden signed an executive order on AI, billing the U.S. as out front of other countries when it comes to establishing guardrails around the fast emerging technology. But Biden told those gathered in the East Room that other steps will require congressional action. That will be a much more complicated process, as lawmakers have been in a stalemate for years when it comes to any meaningful action on tech giants. Speaking to reporters after the White House ceremony, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said that all this, that his effort to craft a bill, this is about the hardest thing I've attempted to undertake legislatively because it is so complicated, because A, it's so complicated, B, it affects every aspect of society. Schumer said that he and the rest of the bipartisan group of lawmakers will meet with Biden on Tuesday to talk about the legislation. I think we're in a post-legislation era of this country.
Yep.
I don't think legislation is going to get passed unless it's nonsensical and irrelevant or jammed into an omnibus. And when it comes to major issues like AI, it's just going to happen and no one's going to do anything about any of it. So you look at where the internet is today and kids have access to adult content and nobody cares. In fact, there are libertarians who argue they should. It's the parents' fault. And I'm like, well, I guess it's like saying it's parents' fault if a kid goes to an adult bookstore and the guy lets him in. I think at a certain point, there is a shared responsibility between the people granting the access and the parents who are supposed to be watching their kids. With that being said, AI stuff is just going to keep happening. There's not going to be any regulation and it's going to get wild. And then that's it. Yeah. There you go. You'll live in the pod, you'll eat the bugs.
And China's going to control it all.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I feel confident that China, whether or not the U.S. Passes some kind of restrictions, because Mark Andreessen is frequently talking about doing some kind of limit on, he really wants a full stop on AI research because he thinks that it can get out of hand real fast. But I think that doesn't really matter because it's not going to be something that the whole world is going to abide by. Even if the U.S. companies or companies that had a large portion of their business done in the U.S., even if they committed to stopping, that doesn't mean China's going to stop. And I don't think that China is as cutting edge as the U.S. is, but I think that they would be, or they will be quickly if the U.S. stops develop, if U.S. firms and companies stop developing. I mean, right now, Google's as much of the military industrial complex as Raytheon is. Like they are exactly the same type of involvement with the warfare state and the surveillance state. So there's no incentive for these companies to actually stop, no matter what the president passes or executive order he says. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, and for me, part of the danger with AI is that it's marketed as just something fun that we try out and play right now. I mean, every time you get access to Photoshop just unveiled a tool that uses AI. So you can use AI to generate things. But that is refining the AI. The more exposure, the more people that use it, the more essentially free beta testing they have for it, the more complicated of a tool it becomes to unravel. And I just don't think that, and look, I openly identify as a boomer in terms of technology, but I just don't think there's any way for the people who are legislating to legislate effectively and fastly enough to be ahead of this. We're already behind it. That's why we're trying to play catch up. And I certainly don't know anyone who can effectively talk about the ramifications of AI in a way that would eventually make it into an effective law.
Half of them can't even open an email, and they're the people that are going to do our AI
I think it was one of the Democratic congressmen from North Carolina. He used to do TikToks from the Capitol, and he was like, today I met with the head of technology at the Capitol to get my laptop, and he deadpanned asked me if I needed him to needed help learning how to open the laptop and learning how to launch an email.
Wow. Feinstein basically stayed there dead for 6 months. So it's ridiculous. And these are supposed to be our leaders.
The executive order is basically going to direct the Department of Commerce to develop standards for authentication and watermarking. Impossible.
Yep.
They'll make the standard. It'll be exploited by them. That's what they'll do. They'll make a standard and they'll say, this label certifies a video organic. And then they'll just charge companies for that organic label.
Yeah.
So you're going to be a news organization and you're going to go to this system and you're going to be like, we're going to upload the video, we're going to certify it, and then they're going to stamp it, and then you're going to pay your monthly fee or whatever, or your license per content fee. Just like if you were getting other government stamps on your product.
Or if you're an independent journalist and you take video on the ground, what's to stop anyone else from saying, oh no, this doesn't have the right certification, or you didn't upload it correctly, or we have questions about this, so now we're going to lock down your content because we think it potentially could be AI generated based on literally nothing other than we don't really like what you're filming.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that I don't want there to be regulation. I think AI is, I'm fearful of it, but it's just hard to think of a way that would be effective and not open a whole bunch of other problems.
Right. You're right.
Anyways, I can ram on. I'll just continue to talk about why I'm scared of AI. Okay, here we go. No, I mean, this is the thing. I've had other people suggest to me that when I'm doing research for articles that I should turn to ChatGPT and like ask it questions. And ChatGPT can be an incredibly effective tool. But I was just sitting with someone in the office who was using it to double check a math equation, and ChatGPT got it wrong. And so you just can't trust that the AI intelligence is actually reliable, right? I mean, it eventually will develop its own agenda. I do not trust it. I don't care what Elon says.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that AI will ever be creative, because currently AI is essentially it can only know what's on the internet now. It doesn't come up with any ideas of its own. So I'm not in any position to make an authoritative statement about AI, but I am skeptical that it could be creative in the way that human beings are. So,
Sure, but I imagine, once it reads every book and listens to every song, it's already at that point where it knows what people like and then can make pop music. Granted, if you want to make art music, sure, weird, experimental, and weird sounds, it could certainly do that. Just increase the instability in the algorithm, and then it'll output something a little bit weirder. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what creativity is going to mean in that context.
When I say creativity, I'm more thinking in not so much creative like art style or musically, but like creative as in like innovations in fields. Like, I don't think the AI is going to figure out how to do cold fusion.
I disagree. I think it will.
You think you can figure out
Yep.
cold fusion? Because my impression is that without the information already being there, I feel like it wouldn't be able to come up with
like
innovations.
Sudoku.
Was that?
So it's like Sudoku. So they've the periodic table, for instance, periodic table of elements. When it was first made, there was like huge gaps in it, and they were like, "There's probably something there based on this already," and then we're filling it in, and then we're like, "Whoa, there's like a whole section here." And so what I think it's going to be like a Sudoku puzzle. Once enough data is plugged into the AI, it's going to spit out, "Hey guys, see these things right here? There's a particle there, there's an element there." We're going to be like, wow, we could not see these things. And then it's not going to know. It's going to say, based on all of the pieces laid out, I'll put it this way. We're loading all the puzzle pieces of this 50 billion piece jigsaw puzzle into this machine, and then it's sorting them and then showing us the picture. And we're like, there's huge gaps in where there should be things here. Now we know what pieces are missing. We know what to look for. Yeah. But it's also going to be able to predict what those pieces are going to be, especially on like, things like elements, for instance, and particles and permutations of various compounds or whatever. It's going to be able to be like this. I remember watching these old movies where the scientist like inputs into the computer, a formula and then presses enter, and then it's like formula unstable. And I'm like, well, how's the computer know? And I'm like, oh, back then probably not, but today, yes.
Oh, yeah.
You'll be able to input a sequence, and then it'll tell you like, here's what will happen.
It's going to know much more than we can think. It's going to really advance, I think, exponentially, very fast. And
instantly.
It's going to be a very, very quick transition. Within 10 years, it's going to be really advanced. And
I don't think 10 years.
You think even faster than that?
Even faster than that. Because when the singularity happens, it will be instant.
If it's faster, it's
scary because they'll use it against us somehow. It always starts good.
Itself against us.
Yeah, it's going to be a tool that's going to end up probably destroying us like everything else ends up being. We said, Alexa, even Alexa was so good. Alexa's reporting people to the cops.
But that's why I never understood the draw to Alexa, because it's always listening. That seems like
always listening.
Like you bugged your own home on behalf of Amazon.
How many crimes has Alexa turned in their owners for? It's ridiculous. And they
allow
really? Yeah, I know a few people who got caught on crime. I don't know them personally, but I see them on.
You can subpoena the recordings from Alexa.
Yes. The first thing you should do is get those things the hell out of your house. It's craziness.
I had a boss who was like, we'll put them in every office. And I was like, I have to leave this job. I already thought that.
Everyone should understand that if you have concerns about Alexa, you should make sure you shouldn't have a smartphone either.
No, you need to keep that.
We should all move to the woods and the mountains.
Yeah.
No,
I agree.
I mean, this is the hard thing, which is that I understand some technology is really valuable and can change the lives of people, advance business, this, that, and the other. But ultimately, what are we sacrificing to pay for it, right? Yeah. All these things, especially, again, I go back to sort of the free access to AI or, low cost access to some AI programs that are essentially allowing you to test AI out and it's testing you out. There is a cost, and we're not going to know it until it's too late. And that's what I'm fearful of.
Yep.
I have Alexa in my apartment, but I don't have Alexa in my at my house in New Hampshire.
Why would you have it in your apartment, Phil?
Because
Are you
it's
crazy?
just the apartment. It's not the house in New Hampshire.
You crazy.
It's not the fortress of solitude.
You should protect all of the fortresses, even your satellite office here in West Virginia.
The apartment is not a fortress.
So you can talk to your dog when you're gone. Is that what you're saying?
No.
A little bit?
No, not at all.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.